Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1, where we will be reviewing operations with whole numbers. And in this video, we're going to review the operation called addition. So, what is addition? Addition is used to represent when you have two piles of similar objects, and then you put those piles together. So, to give you an example of a situation where I would be using addition, suppose that I had one pile of three objects, and suppose I had another pile here of four objects. If I took those objects and I put them together into one pile, then I would be adding together these three objects with these four objects. And I would be wondering, how many objects do I have in total? Seven in total. And I can get that just by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 objects in total when I put these piles together. And so I could say that if I add together 4 from this pile and 3 from this pile, if I add 4 and 3, the result of that would be 7. Now, there are a couple of different ways to add numbers by hand. And the first way to add numbers by hand is just to do what I've done here and just to put objects together into a pile and count how many objects you have when those piles are put together. If someone said add the number 2 to the number 4, then I would just think about a pile of two objects, which I'll represent with these two dots, and another pile of four objects, which I'll represent by these four dots, and then I just have to count how many dots I have if I put these two piles together. So total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In total, I have 6 objects together. So that would be the result of adding 2 and 4. Another way to add numbers together is to add on a number line. A number line is kind of like a measuring tape. If you've ever used a measuring tape or a yardstick or a meter stick, a number line is a line on which all the common numbers that we use are laid out. So I might, for example, have the number 1 marked here, and then the number 2 marked here, and the number 3, and the number 4, and the next number 5, and the next number 6, and so on. If I wanted to use the number line to add 2 to 4, then I would start on the number line at 2, and then I would move 4 spaces to the right. So starting here at 2, if I move 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to the right, I find myself here at this position marked by 6. And this would be another way that I could get a result of 6 from adding 2 and 4. Notice that you get exactly the same result if you add in the opposite order. You could also start on the number line at 4 and move 2 spaces to the right and get exactly the same result. If I start at 4 and move 2 spaces to the right, then I get exactly the same answer, 6. So it doesn't matter the order in which you do it. It doesn't matter, you'll get the same answer either way. Now, especially when you're dealing with really large numbers, it's common to use a calculator to perform addition. So suppose, for example, that I wanted to add The large number 2,431 to the number 5,729, just for an example. If I wanted to do that on a calculator, I can, for example, just use a scientific calculator like comes built in with my Windows installation on my home computer. If you use a phone, you'll see a calculator app on your phone that has very similar features. If I want to add using a calculator, all I have to do is type in the first number, starting from the leftmost digit, going to the rightmost digit, 2431. Then hit the symbol down here in the bottom right that looks like a cross. This symbol is called plus. And add that to the second number, which we'll type in 5729, and hit the equal sign. And the result, displayed here in the calculator, 8160, is the result of adding together these two numbers. Now on the calculator, we used this cross symbol in the bottom right to add these two numbers together. This cross symbol is called the plus sign, and this symbol is what we used to represent addition symbolically. So if I wanted to ask you to add together 3 and 5, I could use the plus sign to ask you to do that. For example, here, if I say 3 plus 5, I'm asking you to add together 3 units and 5 units. So I can calculate this answer using any of the techniques that we've talked about so far. One way that I could do it is I could create a pile of 3 objects and another pile of 5 objects, and then I could just count how many objects I have if I put those piles together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In total, I have 8 objects. Alternatively, you could use the number line to calculate this total. If I start on the number line at, for example, 3, and then I go to the right 5 spaces, starting at 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then that movement causes me to land at 8. So that would be another way to get a result of 8 from this addition. Now I can also ask us to add multiple numbers together. For example, I could say 12 plus 8 plus 3. And all that this is asking me to do is put together 3 piles of objects. The first pile contains 12 objects, the second pile contains 8 objects, and the final pile contains 3 objects, 1, 2, 3. So if I count up, I would have 23 objects. Or I could use the calculator to help me, and I could say 12 plus 8 plus 3, and then press the equals button to get the answer. And from the calculator, I get an answer of 23 again. Now, in addition to this plus sign, there are a couple of English words that are used to indicate that you want to add numbers together. And here are a couple of common English words that are used to indicate addition. The first English word that indicates addition is total. Total is an English word that usually represents addition. Another word that represents addition is sum, S-U-M. Sum is an English word that represents addition. Another English word that represents addition is usually more than, or I should say an English phrase, since this is 2 words. Total, sum, more than. These are very common words used to represent addition. So, for example, if someone says to me, what is the total of 4 and 1 and 2? They are interested in what I would write in symbols as 4 plus 1 plus 2. And once again, you can calculate this total in many different ways. And one way, for example, that I could do it is just to put together 3 piles of objects, one pile of 4 objects, one pile of 1 object, and one pile of 2 objects, and then just count how many I have in total. So 7 would be the result. I could also say in English, what is the sum? What is the sum of the numbers 19 and 43? And if someone asks me for the sum, they're asking me in English to add together 19 and 43. So in symbols, I could write 19 plus 43. Now these numbers are pretty big, so I could use the calculator to help me. 19 plus 43 equals, looks like we get 62. And I could also say, what is 4 more than 7? What happens if you take 7 and you increase it by 4? So 4 more than 7 is another way in English to refer to take 4 and add it to 7. And for example, if I wanted to do this on a number line, then I could start at 4 units. I could go 7 units to the right, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would be 7 units to the right from 4, and that would give me 11 on the number line. So that would be the result of this addition. These are a few English words that are used to indicate that addition is needed. Now, let me give you a few examples of situations where addition is used in the real world. And again, addition is about combining 2 or more piles of similar objects. So, for example, if I have a pile of $235 in my bank account right now, and I deposit another pile of dollars, which is $531, I could ask, how much do I have in my bank account in total? To answer this question, all I have to do is add together the dollars I already had with the dollars I just deposited. So 235 plus 531. These numbers are large, so I will add this in the calculator. The total of these two values is 766. So that would be the number of dollars that I have in my bank account now. For another example, suppose I have 4 people who are all pitching in to buy a gift for their friend. And if I do that on a calculator, 11 plus 17 plus 13 plus 15, and then I hit equals, the total of those numbers is 56. And I have $56 to spend in total on this person's gift. For another example, suppose that I hike for 3 miles, then I take a break, and then I hike for 2 more miles. Then I turn around and hike back to the starting position. If I combine all these different distances, how far did this person hike in total? So here's that keyword again, total. So if I go 3 miles and then 2 miles forward, 3 miles and then a break and then another 2 miles. In total, so far, I have gone 3 plus 2, result 5 miles forward. But then I turn around and hike back to the start. So, in addition to these 5 miles forward, I must be traveling another 5 miles backward to get back to where I started. So 5 miles forward plus 5 miles backward gives me 10 miles in total. That's how far I hiked if I go 3 and 2 miles forward and then turn back and go back to my starting position. In total, 10.